Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the anthology series that just came out on Disney Plus called Kizazi Moto. So it is on Disney Plus. There are 10 episodes. They're all relatively short. We're going to be talking about all of them, and we're going to be going to spoiler territory for each of the 10 episodes. So if you haven't seen them, go check them out on Disney Plus, then come back and hear what we have to say about it. But let's go ahead and see what we both thought about it. So 10 episodes. The reason also that Kizazi Moto is special isn't just because it is just any type of anthology series of animations, but it is specifically anthology series of animations produced and created by African teams, African animation studios coming out of Africa. So really cool, something that we don't normally get to see, and it's really I was most excited to just see the talent that was going to be showcased here and the stories that would be told, because one thing that we've learned about different cultures bringing their spin to different stories or different mediums is that they find ways to insert their own culture and cultural experiences and stories and histories into the work that they're producing, however, whatever form that takes. And so I was definitely going to be interested in just seeing what are the stories that we're going to be getting from animation studios in Africa. Like I'm just, and then also just like the style of animations. Like what are we going to be getting from like the styles? And to spoiler alert, we already went through it. The styles are crazy diverse. It's like Visions in that way, where there it almost I almost want to say that I do not think one style is repeated.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on
No,
that, but
you're
I don't
right.
think it is.
They're all
Okay,
different. Yeah. I
so
know. Who would have
yeah,
thought that there were that many different kinds of animation styles?
yeah, it's crazy. It's so cool. So, but we can go into like the details of the episodes in a second. I'm sure we both had like our favorites. We both had probably had ones we didn't like as much. But like, what was your thoughts going into it? Because I know with when I mentioned it to you, you hadn't really heard of it. You didn't really know about it. I didn't even know about it. A friend is the one that told me about it, and I was surprised because usually my YouTube like kicks these things to my feed, and it didn't have any. It didn't kick this to my feed at all. And like the trailer for it was like 3 weeks ago, and then it released this week, and there was like no trailer for like the release or something, and it was like it's really weird. It's like almost kind of like it almost felt like it stealthily came out.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know what to expect going into it. I I did feel like it was probably gonna be better than Visions. Not gonna lie. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's because we're not looking at stories being told by an established universe, and these are just original pieces that have no limitations.
Right.
So I thought that they were just right off the bat going to be generally better. I will say though, none of them like really stood out to me in the sense of like, wow, I thought that was awesome, it was amazing. I thought they were all like pretty good, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think any of them were actively bad.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know, like I thought they were enjoyable, and they were cool. I just I don't feel like any. I just don't feel like anything made me jump out of my chair and be like you need to see this kind of thing. Like I had fun watching it, and I thought it was a lot of beautiful work there.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. I there's one story in particular that when because I was looking at which animation styles did I like the best, and which stories did I like the best, and which combination of both did I like the best. And I felt like I'll talk about it more when we get there. But there's one story, there's one in particular where I felt like the story as a short story was the strongest story out of all the ones that we got to experience. And then maybe we can ask each other in the chat by the end which one we thought had like the best combination of both of animation style and storytelling. Um, yeah, the Zimbabwe multiverse one. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that one too. That was episode 6, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's just
so
dive right into it though, because we have 10 to cover and we already talked for 5 minutes. So Let's
for
go.
sure.
Episode 1.
So yeah, so episode one, this one was one that I felt okay on. This one's one that I came in and I was like, oh, this one's fine. It didn't like wow me or whatever, but like it was one of those ones where I was like, okay, I like the animation, simple story. It almost kind of has like a Pixar feel from like how it's trying to handle its comedy and stuff. Um, but yeah, so this one I thought was like perfectly fine. I didn't feel this one is like probably out of my list. This was probably in the middle for me.
I felt like I liked it because I thought they did a really good job of establishing the world it like
Hmm.
very quickly without having to do a lot of, exposition. And at the end of it, I felt like I could have watched more. Like if I felt like it could have been a full length movie, could have been explored more. There could have been more episodes about it, just because I thought that the world was really interesting, and I kind of wanted more from it.
Right.
But it ended in a really concise way. But I like the ideas behind it.
Right. And just to touch briefly on what the episode was even about, because we didn't actually mention that, but it's basically a coming of age story, right? A kid wants to earn his right to be able to,
To be a
uh,
warrior and
yeah,
herder, to shepherd the cows, and the cows for like grow this kind of crystal that they use to put in their like power their technology. But then
right.
there's like a bad crystal, like a bad energy, and it's like this red monster.
Yeah, it's red Kaiba crystal. I mean, red monster.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of these episodes, I was writing a lot of what it like other things that it reminded me of. This definitely reminded me of kyber crystals because you get the blue, the red, and the green.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
yeah,
stuck out to me
um,
too.
yeah, and like the animation style, it was pretty like standard to me. I actually when I started watching episode 2 and it was a different kind of animation. I was like, oh yeah, I just for a moment I forgot that these animation styles were gonna be all over the
Change.
place. Yeah,
Well,
because the
and that's
first one was it was just like how all the animations are right now, the 3D animations.
right. Exactly. 100%. Like yeah, I said, for me, it gave me kind of like a kind of Pixar vibe as far as like the style was concerned and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but that's a good segue to go into episode two. So episode two, while I don't think that there's anything wrong with episode two, this one is close to the bottom of my list. Um, so because so episode two, it is it has that Fooly Cooly energy, that Studio Trigger energy. It looks like it's a animation that has been inspired by like Gurren Lagann and many of the other types of Studio Trigger animations, and like I said, it has Fooly Cooly energy all over the place, where it is kinetic, wild, crazy. It's about a kid who enjoys racing. His mom used to race. She gave it up when she got hurt, and now someone comes to their village and is like, I bought your village and I'm going to destroy it unless you race me again. And in like a Mulan style, rather than the mom being able to go, the son steals his mom's outfit and then goes to race in her place. um so yeah, I think that in general it's fine, but this is the one where I when I watched it I said this is not for me.
I agree. It was super fast paced and it was a little like weird at the beginning. And it I don't know, it was just like really fast and they talk really fast, and I also noticed that this happens in more than one of the episodes, but sometimes they'll like switch between English and another language.
Yeah, it's usually like I think we've heard Zulu and Swahili later
Mhm.
on, but yeah, that happens a
Yeah.
couple of times.
And that kind of confused me sometimes because I wasn't because they switch back and forth very quick. Like they're already talking very fast, and then they're switching. So I definitely needed the subtitles,
Hmm.
but that's cool. I mean, like a splash of language is awesome, but I almost wish that they just kind of went one way and not the other. So that, because I think switching back and forth is just can be confusing unless it's how they actually talk.
I talk
Yeah,
normally.
but I wouldn't know. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it was like something that was more cultural because I've seen that in certain like Hispanic households where
Mm,
they switch between English and Spanish like in mid conversation,
yeah.
depending on what's being said. So I kind of just read it as that. I did feel like it was fast, but it also felt like it was congruent with what I would expect for this culture or a culture. So I was like, okay, I was able to roll with it. But
Hmm.
yes, I did have those moments where I was like, whoa, wait,
Yeah. What?
let me pause real quick so I can read what was
Rewind.
actually said.
Yeah. Yeah, super, like that one was super fast, and I get it because, like, it's a racing episode. It really reminded me a lot of Speed Racer,
Hmm.
meets like pod racing, meets Black Panther, because there's that whole part where he like has this like dream of his mom and like the ancestors and stuff like that that give him like the power to be fast and race
Hmm.
really well. And then there's this whole thing of him like being half alien, and I was like, did they really need that though?
It was
Because
just it was just for the world building, but yeah, it wasn't
yeah,
that.
it didn't really contribute much, so I thought it was interesting that they made the choice to put that there.
I guess they just wanted to make it so that he had something else to fight against because they were discriminating against him for being half human. 'Cause I think it was more the issue that I might be wrong. I can't really remember. I think it was an issue of him being half human more than he's being half alien, which made me think everyone else was aliens. But it maybe it was the other way around. I can't
Yeah,
really remember.
not very
But yeah,
clear, especially with the way that the drawings were. I
right.
couldn't really tell. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Playmat. There was too much going on for the allotted time. So
yeah.
yeah. So that's how we felt about that one. Um, I feel bad. Okay, but we're gonna go to the third one, and I feel bad because I feel like I wanted to like this one more, but this is probably the one I like the least.
The
Um,
third one?
the third one, yeah, it goes uphill from here. It goes up from here. Like the first couple are the ones I was just kind of meh on, and then I started liking them more as we kept going. But the third one, and once again, I don't think it was a bad story. The animation style is really good. I just think that I didn't gel with the story that they were trying to tell, or it just didn't captivate me that much and pull me in. So it left me kind of feeling like looking at my watch, for instance, like how
Mm,
or looking at the time, how much is left in this episode. So, um, so
yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah. Then the mom finds him for episode three. Yeah,
yeah.
I started off. I was so intrigued by the world that they were building and everything, and then as it kept going, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, nah, this just doesn't interest me." Yeah,
Yeah,
so
no, I completely agree. I initially I thought it looked really cool. It was like, is this the apocalypse? What's with this kid? And there's this bird who's like calling him like a god or like a young king or a
hmm.
young god or something like that. And he looks in the skies and you could see the constellations, and then the monsters that come in look like the constellations.
Hmm.
So I thought that was super cool. And then like it was that person was like his mom, and she's like, okay, it's story time, and I'm like, oh, here we go. We need This story is so complicated that you need to tell it. We need a background for us to understand what's happening, and I still don't get it with the background. I mean, I get that she's his mom and that she basically had to sacrifice him to keep the world safe, which I think is kind of messed up that they would tell a story like that in the first place. And then when like, with all the like fighting going on, he like somehow knows that if he puts like the little thing that he has onto the like his actual body, I guess,
Yeah, then he'll go
um,
back into it.
and that it would end up doing what it did, which is basically like put
Yeah.
like a big explosion and a shield to like protect everyone. So it was like, how in the world would he even know any of that? I mean, there were some things in it that I thought were cool, but it
Mhm.
was just so complicated. Like it was too much story for too little time, and like when you're telling short stories like this, you have to simplify it. Otherwise, like you're just overstretching. Like make it long. If it's meant to be a longer story, then tell a longer story. Don't try to squeeze it into 15 minutes.
Yeah, if that. And I think, and then the other thing was that because the whole idea was that she sacrificed her sons to protect them from the monsters and the creatures. So you ask yourself, well, if she could just take her son back, doesn't that mean the creatures will come back? So that was the question that I asked by the end, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it answered it. Maybe they were trying to say, oh no, that's why the shields are all activated now. But then it just feels strange because it's like the whole idea of a sacrifice is that you give one thing to get another, and so like if you're able to get your son back, then that other thing should come back, and if it doesn't, then you actually haven't given up anything. But that was just
Mm-hmm.
like from a story perspective. So anyway, that's how I. It sounds like we're kind of agreed on this one. Um, another one that's not our favorite. So let's move on to episode 4. So episode 4, I don't think is the best story, but it is my favorite animation. Well, this and episode 8 are probably my two favorite animations for what we've seen. The story for episode 4 is very simple. It's a simple story about like a surfer, and it's kind of got this whole kind of thing with like these squids that can like kind of almost drug you, but allow you to like surf in a way that you've never been able to surf before. And I don't. I mean, I know you guys. Um, I know you guys are like I say this all the time, but like the energy that I got felt very arcane energy. So that was kind of like the thing that I was like kind of digging when I was like well, looking at the animation style. I thought that when I was looking at it that it would be my favorite, but it ended up yeah, it's not my favorite, but at the same time I still did enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought that the animation was really cool and I liked the look of it. However, I thought that the story was not the strongest. I just
Yeah.
didn't understand like why the villains or the antagonists of the stories of this story, what was the motive.
What was their motive? They wanted that surfboard.
Yeah, but they did an awful lot of extra if they just wanted the surfboard. So, I mean, it's I just thought like it was it was visually cool, but I think like this one along with episode 3, I feel like
Mhm.
it's just another example of like cool ideas for visuals that don't line up with a story. Like
Yeah.
there are times where I myself too would want to like I have these images that I want to show, but I'm trying to fit them into a story and they just don't fit and I can't make them fit and or the way that I make them fit makes the story complicated or makes the story not quite make sense for why the characters would make the choices that they make. And
Mhm.
I think episodes 3 and 4 are examples of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And we're and but I think that yeah, the thing that goes best for episode 4 is its animation style. I think that it's kind of some of the strongest animation that are in like this batch of stories. But yeah, the story itself is just not really there. But there's a lot of cool visuals when you watch this. It's very kinetic energy. There's some really cool like action sequences, very well done. Like definitely probably my one of my favorites. This and episode 8 I think are tied for just for like how the animation feels. Um but then let's go to an episode I didn't expect to like that I actually liked a lot, which is episode 5, where when I saw the animation for this one, I was thinking this was going to be a kind of like Steven Universe type thing, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this at all. So I went in ready to not like it. But then after watching it, it's a story about a coming of age where a girl has to get her
Totem.
she has to get her totem and get her tattoos Um, and then when you see the animation like in action, and when you see it playing out, it's legitimately really good. There's like some kind of 3D type of feelings that they do for in the animation, which is, and it is like 2D feeling, but they do some kind of 3D stuff within it. So I think that that was very cool. And I also thought that the story was nice and simple. I do get confused at the end. I'm not going to lie, but I think overall, like showing the family, showing like this, and that's something we didn't really get to touch on, but we'll touch on it right here. And it's a theme going forward with all the other stories, is like the Afrofuturism nature of all of these stories, where it is about showing like a futuristic Africa sci-fi filled with brown people. And that's like one of the prevailing themes that all of these have going for it. So I want to make sure that we don't gloss over that. Like these are absolutely all sci-fi stories, every single one, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, and this one was kind of sci-fi mixed with spirituality, and her going and meeting her ancestors. She gets kind of pulled into this other world, and she has a limited amount of time to basically find the totem that's right for her before she's going to like decay and disappear before, and then she has to go back. So yeah, it was like so I was surprised because I did not think I was gonna like it, and I actually liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I got like the '90s animation kind of vibe
Yes,
here, and
yes.
it reminded me of Encanto, like meets Soul. So like I don't know, I there was just something really fun about it, but then it got like a little bit serious when they were like, "Oh, she's gonna die." Just like,
Yeah, if she doesn't
and
leave here.
the receptionist kept calling her like, "Oh, I could smell like her rotting body and stuff like that," or like her body's rotting and stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh, actually, that's kind of funny because everyone in that like plane
Hmm.
is like dead already, so they're like spirits or souls, and she's an actual person, so her like she's not rotting, but like I mean
Yeah,
we're all dying like slowly. So
yeah.
so that's why I thought it was
That's what
funny.
that's what you like, the idea that we're all dying inside.
But I just thought it was a funny way to say like, oh, I can smell a rotting body. um but no, I thought the idea behind it was really cool. I thought it was a very interesting way of looking at life and death. And I mean, I didn't exactly like how she was like, I'm just gonna make my own totem, because I was like, oh, she's going off doing her own thing, and
But I
it's
also
like,
thought that the whole point of totems was that you got them from your ancestors. So I was like, how do you make your own? If and then
yeah,
it also I just was like, but they said that the totems were ties to them, and it's how it helps keep them alive. And so if you make your own, and so I was thinking that she was like, if she made her own, she wasn't going to use either of theirs. And then I'm just like, well, that kind of sucks for them, right? But
yeah,
as Playmat just said in the chat, and like because she kind of gets half and half, and I guess it didn't click for me that she got both. I thought she just made her own unique totem that was not related to either one, but it seems like the reading is actually that she got both of the totems that the ancestors are trying to get her to choose between.
yeah. So that part did confuse me a little bit. And to answer your question, Playmat, I was thinking in Kanto because of the colors and because of this whole ceremony of her going to this like rite of passage of getting a totem, the same way that um, I forget her name, the character in
Yeah.
Kanto was going through this like thing to get her powers and the like her door and like whatever family powers. So, but you're right. I was also thinking Coco and Soul. So it's like a whole afterlife thing. Mirabelle, right? Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, okay. So let's move on to the next one. So I think this one is actually my favorite. Um,
Mm.
so it's about like this kid who is like ignoring his dad's calls, and he's doing this like I don't know, selfie video. What are they, like TikTok videos
Yeah,
basically
basically.
of him doing crazy dangerous stuff, and he sees this woman crying about like people that she's missing. And while he was doing all of that, like, he ends up swinging down, like the rocks were falling, and so he pushes her out of the way, or at least we think that, and then he ends up in this virtual world, or like this other world, which is like a glitch or something like that. It reminded me of Wreck It Ralph a little bit, and Coruscant, because it was a lot like Coruscant. Um, but he ends up bumping into this girl who was missing, and she's actually the one that the woman was like crying about because she was missing. And what happened was she also ended up in this like glitch universe.
Mm.
So they kind of go on this adventure together, and then they kind of hash out their problems. And she he ends up convincing her to go back to the real world, because her mom misses her, and it's not her fault that her brother died,
Mhm.
which is why she was hiding there. And it also taught him a lesson that he should value his father and his family, and understand like why he's so worried. There's also a splash of commentary on the whole TikTok thing, and just being
Yeah.
a kid and like ignoring your parents when they're really just worried about you. So I think
Right.
that's why I liked it. I liked the story behind it. I thought the story was heartwarming. It was simple, but it still contained a lot of action, and it was visually pleasing. So I thought, I thought it was a very wholesome and really well told, simple story that also looked really well, like really nice.
Yeah. This one, like, I definitely think it has a good balance between like telling a story that is cohesive and having a solid animation style throughout. I think for me, I kind of agree with Playmat, where I kind of felt like it fell off near the end because of the fact that it starts off with kind of this high energy and this whole like element of danger with this thing coming after them, but you find out that that thing was just kind of trying to help them the entire time, even though it looked like it was actively harming people at one point. um, so I was like, it felt a little too easy for me, but I understand also the need to kind of like wrap it up. It is a short, like get to the point and like let's get out of here. So I did feel like when I started watching it, I felt like my energy being up here, but by the time that it ended, I felt like my energy was just a little down here. But this is another one that I still think is better than most of the other ones that we've talked about so far. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So this one I think is for me my favorite story out of all of them. So like I like this one is about like this kind of these mer people, these underwater like sea people who are being attacked by the upper area, the humans and whatnot. And we start getting like splashes of another story that's being told alongside of it. And that story takes place with two completely different characters that are on the surface world, and it seems like is unrelated. So the thing about it is that when you're watching it, almost feels like you're watching two different stories, like completely. It really feels like these things are completely disconnected because the actions aren't tied to one another. So part of the fun in watching this is trying to figure out how is this going to tie together at the end. And the story that we're seeing on the human side of things is that there's this woman who is sick and she's working on a cure for herself using like this mystical like water, or this hatima I think it was called, and when you mix it with something it doesn't destroy it, like enhances cells. So she does it. But we'll get to that in a second. But then basically, so we're cutting back and forth between these. There's a war happening. This main kid that's underwater has lost his dad, and now he's trying to fight. People are dying, and then he starts to get attacked. And we cut back and like to live person where the human person where she decides to get in the water. It heals her, but it does something else to her. And when we see her, we find out that she actually looks like the people that are being attacked underwater. And then you see this, you're like, I can forget the order, but you find out they're looking through a memory fragment, and the memory fragment shows that the people that are being attacked right now were once human, and they were only people that just got rid of their sicknesses and then had to leave because they were ostracized. And now these two groups are attacking each other because they forgot this story, and neither one of them can believe it. So from a story perspective, I think this one is the strongest as far as telling a strong, cohesive story that also is emotional, that has a poignant message, all within a short time frame. It's not my favorite animation style, but it is my favorite story.
This was, for me, how Wakanda Forever should have been.
Oh, 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 yo, Cheryl, yo, she going for the jugular. Okay, continue.
But I actually also really like this one, because of the interesting storytelling, because we're seeing the past alongside the present. The only thing I didn't like about it was how it ended. I felt like it was a little
Mhm,
abrupt, and I kind of wanted a little bit more of a resolution. But also, I get,
mhm.
it's a short, so you only have so much time to tell so much story. I just thought that there could have been a lot more story. Kind of similar to like how I felt about the first one, where it's just there's such good world building and there's so much like good, intriguing story that I want to see more. So I guess that's a good thing
Yeah, no, yeah, actually, and like Playmat said, this one would have been a good movie. It'd have been a really cool movie to see.
for
That
Wakanda
way, you could have
Forever.
gotten. Moving on, episode 8. This is another one that I liked a lot. From animation to just the story and message that was like prevalent in it. Um, Real quick, about a girl who ends up who wants to find out what her fate is, and in this world, when you're given these scrolls, it tells you what you're going to be. The scroll that she gets tells her that she's nothing, and because she's upset by it, she goes after the guy who gave her the scroll, and through hijinks it actually causes a lot of problems to happen. But by the end, she comes together with this guy, and she finds out that the scroll that she was given was the scroll that he was given, and this was all planned to get her to kind of choose her way. So like, so yeah, I liked it a lot. I love the animation. I like the story. I think that this one probably for me is the best combination of animation and story, for me personally. And like we said before, I like some animation for others. I like stories for others, but this one I think is like the best total package. It's a simple story and it still has a good message. Animation is solid, and like the music is good. Like gets in and gets out. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I didn't dislike this one. It wasn't like my favorite one. I thought it was very simple.
Hmm.
I guess I'm not a huge fan of the animation. I guess maybe because like all the other ones were so vibrant and I was really
Yeah,
digging the colors and everything. This one's pretty like
brown.
down a bit, not brown,
Yeah.
but like it's like sepia. Like there's
Sepia.
no
Okay.
vibrant colors, which I really enjoyed seeing, because like especially like one of the like some of the earlier ones, like the colors are so wild.
Hmm.
It's like the complete opposite of episode 2.
Hmm.
um and yeah, she is a dusty girl. And it takes place in like Agrabah or something like that, and she's like a street rat and stuff. Like, I was like, oh, this reminds me of Aladdin. But and he's like the genie, the scroll genie, but
The
uh,
scroll beauty.
but it was a pretty simple story. I don't
Simple,
think
yeah.
it didn't wow me, but I would agree it was a very well told, like whole like simple and clean. Someone said simple and clean. I would agree. This one is also very simple and clean.
Yeah. And then going on to
Imaginative.
imaginative, yes. And then
Yes.
tell us a little bit about episode 9, and then we'll get into 10, so we can get out of here.
I actually liked episode 9. I thought it was intriguing. It's about this guy who wants to have a lot of followers, because the more followers you have, then you get to become a god. And
Hmm.
he kind of falls in love with the queen of gods,
Yeah.
but she is like bored with people, and she kind of falls in love with him too, but finds out that he's actually more in love with trying to be
Liked.
loved, yeah, liked by followers. So I was like, this is such a cool way to make a social commentary on social media.
Yeah.
Um, but I really liked the. I mean, it was super like colorful and everything.
Hmm.
It was like kind of like a game show, for people to just become gods. Like it's a competition to impress the queen, and then you get
Hmm.
to become a god if you get like 1 million followers in 24 hours. And then, because of like the connection that he has with the queen, the queen god, they decide to try to take down the system together because they both hate it. And she's like, it's like, it's
Bring
cool
it
and
all
all,
down.
but there's a lot of upkeep. So they're like, yeah, let's take it down. So you have like two people coming from complete opposite ends of this social like this concept of social like life.
Yeah. So
So
like for this,
yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so for this one, I like I started off not liking it actually, um, and took a break in like the middle of the episode because I was not feeling it, and then came back and then continued watching it, and then by the end I was like, okay, I like that a lot because I think just the way it was starting and how it felt like it was going, I was just like, yeah, I'm not digging this at all. But the direction that it took was one that like once you start to see like how their relationship is developing, how when she takes down her glamour or whatever and you get to see the real her and then them connecting and having fun, but then he like kind of betrays her. So like the second half of that story, which is like 8 minutes long, that's when I was like, oh man, all right, I'm in there. But that first half, the first 4 minutes, I was like, yo,
This
I
sucks.
can't. I can't. I can't.
It's very would it be bad if I said Gen Z?
Yeah.
It's just a very like everyone's just so into like the filters. Everyone has a
Yeah.
filter, and I actually really like that the way they decided to take down the system was to break everyone's filter and see everyone
Yeah.
for who they
Who
really
they really
are.
are.
And I'm like, that
Yeah.
is totally what our problem is right now with like the stuff that we see online. It's because the filters on our phones are so good now that like I mean, I'm sure you've all seen that, like TikTok or whatever video, and they're like, "This is not my face. This is not what I look like," and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
like, that's exactly what this is. So,
Yeah. 100%. All right. Final episode.
yep.
Tell us what you got to say about it.
I hated this one. I think this is maybe my least favorite one. I thought like animation wise, it was like interesting. But then it's like another one of those episodes where you have like a kid who's like, "Don't go outside," immediately goes outside. Like what? Did you not just like why even say it? Just don't have the mom say it if you're gonna make her do it, and because it just annoys everybody. And then like
So it's
I
funny is like when I saw this episode 10, I actually thought about the episode 10 of Visions for season 2, which is the one with the girl with the
yes.
mining, and the same thing happens. But
Right?
continue.
Yeah. And like I didn't really complete, I didn't actually get what the mom does. She's like some kind of superhero or something, and she's trying to save like humanity, but humanity sucks so much they like implode and destroy themselves. And so her daughter's like, "Hey, no, come back. Like come inside. Look at what I made. A brand new world, and we can completely forget everyone that you were trying to save because it's making you tired and stuff." So I thought it was like kind of crazy that her solution to the problem is to abandon the world and just
She
make a
said,
brand new one.
she said screw him.
What?
She said screw him.
Oh yeah, I know. I was like, what? What kind of story is this?
Yeah, so part of the reason I let you say it, tell it first because I wasn't sure if you were going to have a more positive opinion about this than I did. I did not like this one either. Um, which is why I was like I didn't want to talk about it. But so, yeah, it's not my favorite. I don't think the animation or anything is bad. It's just story wise, this one wasn't for me. It didn't resonate for me. It's not my worst one, but it probably is bottom three on my list. So yeah, but anyway, we did it. We went through all 10. We are at 40 minutes. Is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I can't believe how on the same page we were about these.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of impressed too. But like yeah, it's interesting. We still had different favorites overall for us personally, but the ones that we liked and disliked generally were the same, which is I think pretty interesting, and I think it does show that there is this type of consistency, at least with among us, about like how we were receiving these stories in this animation. So yeah, would you want to see them do more things like this, or do them from other countries even?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity for up and coming filmmakers to be able to show what they can do, and like I think these stories are like way more creative than a lot of things that we just see in mainstream Hollywood. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air to see these. They were way better than Vision. So
Yes. And there's also we didn't really touch on it too much, but like in some of these stories, there's also we're touching on kind of mythologies from these different cultures. And so these are mythologies that are important for the cultures that they're a part of, but they're not mythologies that we normally hear about in our own cultures. So I thought that that was also pretty cool to be able to see and like experience some of these stories, some of these gods, because these are not things that these are not like people that we normally hear about. So I definitely am on board with either like them doing another season of this type of story. I would from these type of animation studios. I'd be on board with more from other countries to see what kind of stories that they want to tell. And like you said, it showcases a whole other side of talent that we might not normally get to see in the world of like the DreamWorks and the Pixar and the Disneys. So absolutely great. I'm glad that Disney did it. I hope they do it again. But let's go ahead and get out of here. That's what we thought about Kizazi Moto. Have you guys seen it? What did you guys think about it? Did you guys like the same episodes that we liked? Did you like different episodes that we liked? Were your favorite was our favorites your least favorite, or vice versa? What do you thought about that and more? Comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and hey, follow us on Twitch.